Welcome back, everybody.
Hi.
Hope you had a good break, just like I think we had a good break. Did you have a good break?
I did. Yeah, my parents came to town, like my mom and Jim.
Nice.
And yeah, it was really nice. We got to do a lot of stuff around Ramona, which is a town I live in California that I haven't really been able to do before. Because
Yeah.
things are, well, first of all, things are opening up here in California. And second of all, new things are opening here in Ramona in particular,
Oh, nice.
which is interesting. And we have 40 wineries in our town. And they're
That's a lot.
gorgeous. And they have good wine. So we got to visit all of them 3 times. I'm just kidding. In 2 days. No,
That's impressive.
yeah, I think we'd be dead.
That's not a bad way to go, I would say.
That's a good point.
Hope you're all doing good. Welcome back. It's Crimes Against Folk. And we've got awesome guests today.
Yay.
Arielle Silver,
Yay.
a wonderful singer, songwriter, musician, poet, author out of California currently.
Mm-hmm.
And she does a awesome podcast or live stream show, I would say, that both of us have been on, called Tomes and Tunes.
Yeah, we both got to do it individually with her,
which was great,
and and it's cool that now we get to all be on a different show together. So you get the best of all worlds.
Yeah. So looking forward to chatting with her about all of the cool things that she's been doing in the during the lockdown, and she toured a lot, much like we did. So I think we'll have some shared experience there. We want to thank our sponsor, Electro Voice. They thankfully have provided us with these awesome RE20 black microphones that we use every day in all of our various recording and podcasting responsibilities. We're super grateful to them. If you'd like to know more about Electro Voice, go to electrovoice.com. And we want to thank our wonderful patrons whose direct support keeps this podcast going. If you'd like to know more about becoming a patron of our show through Patreon, go to patreon.com/crimesagainstfolk. We do lots of bonus videos there, lots of bonus stories, extra tips and tricks videos, behind the scenes stuff. We break down a lot of our songs, and you can get pretty much all of that for $5 a month. It's not a bad deal. So
sounds good to me.
Yeah. So if you want to check it out, it's patreon.com/crimesagainstfolk. So yeah, you want to get right into it? We've got Arielle waiting here.
Let's jump in.
All right, let me do our little video mambo here.
I like the word mambo. It's very festive.
It's a great way to kind of just describe any weird juggling or dance that you have to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna use that.
Right.
I learned a new word usage today.
Yay!
You learn all kinds of things on Crimes Against Folk.
Exactly. That's the hope. Can you hear us, Arielle? Looks like you're muted there, if you can hear us. And let me...
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey-oh, there you are. Woohoo!
Hi, but you're so quiet. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
we can hear you just fine. Let me move. Let me get my
We're
videos
both
going here.
quiet.
Well, you weren't. I was watching you on YouTube a few minutes ago, and you're perfect. Um, but I have had some of those techno, I don't know, Merc Ret. I don't know if we're in
Ye-
Mercury retrograde right now, but today is like it's been a long time, but today is something. So you're in my house instead of my shed, and let me see if I can fix the audio
All right.
from the side.
And I'll
Do
fix
do
your crop
do.
here. The crops keep changing every single time I do this.
I can hear you now.
These are the parts we edit out for the final audio.
Yeah,
Or maybe
exactly.
not.
It kind of depends on how the episode goes. Sometimes we leave them in if they're entertaining enough. Sometimes it's like, nah, we might want to take that out.
I give this a 5 out of 10.
So how are
Well,
you doing?
I'm good. It's been a year now in this lockdown, and now of course I don't know about you guys, but I have my first shot of two, and
Woohoo!
had some
Awesome.
musicians on my front lawn yesterday. We played
I
music,
saw
and
that.
Cool.
it's just like, I don't know, it's an interesting time, another transition.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I just got my first shot a couple of weeks ago, and I'm getting the second in about a week. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I got lucky. I got both shots pretty early on, um, through just happening. I would just happen to be in the car with my mom for her appointment, and they just gave me one. So I was super early into it, but it allots you more freedom, and I'm still not totally sure how much of that is like a false sense of security and how much of it is accurate. And I guess nobody knows, and time will tell, but we can just do what the CDC recommends, and that's, I think, the best we can do for now.
yeah, I'd say so.
That's exactly right. I think that more than anything, it's just I mean, of course, we still have to wear masks and, all this stuff. We're still in a pandemic. There's still a lot of devastation, but it's like there's a shift in perspective about it, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Makes
agree.
a lot of difference.
I think
Yeah.
even, it's the news, just the news that more people are getting vaccinated, that they're opening up to more people is, I think that alone has really started to help people's attitudes a little more,
Yeah.
especially for the people who have been like, adhering to adhering to the lockdowns and trying to protect everybody else. They're like, okay, we're almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you're in California, right, Arielle?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they announced, Ed, I'm not sure if you heard about this, but I guess June 15th, they're talking about kind of opening things up here. So,
Interesting.
yeah, that seems like a ways off, but it also doesn't seem like that far off. And that's
Yeah.
apparently if everything goes well. So we'll see.
Right. Yeah, we still have to see. But, that's
So how was it jamming with musicians? That's pretty exciting.
So that was awesome. It was awesome for a few different reasons. First of all, when I had you guys both separately on my show, Tomes and Tunes, recently, because of your touring history, I can't remember if I talked with both of you about a little bit of my touring history, um, but I was on the road not as long as you guys were, but just on the road, not landing anywhere in particular for 6 months. And then I landed in Los Angeles, and that was at the end of '06. And I think I played my last show with a band in '07. I flew out, someone flew me out and the rest of the band out to play a show in Arkansas. And I think that was the very last band show I played at all. That was
wow.
'07. That was a long time ago, until last February, just
Wow.
before the pandemic.
Oh
And
no.
I ended up playing a show at Hotel Cafe here in Los Angeles with a full band. And it was just such I mean, the rest of the band, they were like, oh yeah, and then tomorrow night we'll be playing, wherever else. But for me, it was like, oh my gosh, like this is like something has shifted, something's changed. And then of course the pandemic hit. lockdown, and I was like, well, I'm glad I got that opportunity. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yesterday was the first time since then. So it was exciting both because of, just being with other people and doing what we love, but also for me, it felt it just filled my heart. It was just really awesome. It was these two women, my friend Leela Simon on bass, and she brought her upright bass and her electric bass, and we pulled out a
Sweet.
little amp and set that up. And then Alexa brought her little drum set over and sat on her cajon and had like a little cocktail kit on the front lawn. And she's 6 months pregnant, and it was just awesome.
Wow.
And the neighbors and the babies and the dogs and everybody just walking by, and we, the three of us, have not played together ever. I never played with Alexa, the drummer, but she and I knew each other a long time ago. So we were like in the same world as each other, but had never played together. Leela had played that Hotel Cafe show with me last February. That was the only show we had ever played together. And the songs that we played yesterday were all entirely new songs, all written within the last 5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So even songs that I myself have not performed, except maybe at an online open mic or something like that, like once, maybe twice, maybe zero. So it was just like all around, just very exciting. They are both phenomenal players. And so, it didn't sound like a bunch of kids in a garage, just learning their instruments for the first time. But it, of course, also wasn't like the way it would sound on a record. Mm-hmm. But next week, show up. We'll be back on my front lawn, and we're going to do it again, and it will sound like the record. I'm
Is
sure.
this like a weekly thing you're going to do, or just kind of for fun?
I don't know. We will see. We'll see how it turns out. I have no idea.
Well, that might be nice because I understand you've been undertaking writing a song every week, and you do this you show this on Instagram. So this might be a good chance to field test a lot of those songs.
Wait, you do a live? Is this a live songwriting thing?
Oh, I've thought about doing that, but no, I spend like the week. Yeah. So at the so I'm writing a song a week, and I send it to a friend on Friday, and usually it's like I have literally just finished it within the hour.
Yeah.
And feel like, okay, it's complete. I can send it to her. And then by Sunday night, I'll just do a really easy video and post it on Instagram.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I was about, well, that's still really impressive, but I was like, what? Ed and I we did it like 3 times, and then we were like, okay, we never want to do this again.
Where you actually wrote a song live, like while people were watching?
Yeah, we did it in an hour.
Yeah, we were like, we
awesome.
had this, well, yeah.
It was really hard.
It was like, we're like, can we write a song in an hour? And then Ed and I are famous for like making things way more complicated than they need to be at all times. And so we were like, can we write a song in an hour? Let's do it as a series and see if we can do it. And let's live stream it. So we live streamed it, and we did it 3 times. I think after the 3rd time, we were just like, this is just too stressful and exhausting. And we just let them, it's like, it's that classic case of like burnout, I think we just did too much with it, and then we just never wanted to do it again.
That's a lot of pressure, and a lot of constraints. Like write it within an hour. But you guys, I just feel like we're kind of cut from the same cloth, except you like amplify whatever it is that I might do. Like I would tour for 6 months on the road. You'll tour for 5 years. Like I'll say, okay, I'm going to write a song a week. And you're like, I'm going to write it in an hour. Like,
yeah, but you don't burn out.
Maybe not.
You don't burn out.
We're only like, I think we're 6 weeks into the song a week thing right now, maybe 7 weeks. So
that's great.
Nice.
We'll see. I would like to keep it up for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. First of all, so I actually did a similar thing myself. I started about a year ago, and I released it on Patreon, which is something you should consider doing for your series as well. So I have people who pledge to support me. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you about it some more. But they, I've been keeping it up. writing a new song once a week and then posting it on Patreon. So like the only way you can hear it is if you support me on Patreon, which is a great way to pull people over to that page, which quick plug for myself, I guess, is patreon.com/the Vagabond Voice, which is different than the Crimes Against Folk Patreon page that we have. But yeah, and I feel like I've absolutely loved the experience because number one, it keeps me accountable for writing.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's not like it's a chore, you know, it feels good. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I got to do this. But then I do it. I'm like, oh, that was so great. It's never
Yeah.
like, oh, I hated that. It was always, I loved it. And then also it keeps a little bit of income coming in. And also it's a great way of testing your material. Cause I don't, if you're anything like me, I write songs. And after that, I'm like, I have no idea if this is any good. I'm like way too close to it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I am exactly the same. Absolutely. And I am thinking about doing that Patreon thing for this project. So that's like, just hearing you say that is like, oh yeah, that was a good idea, Arielle. Now go forth.
Meant to be.
I have done the song a week thing a couple other times in my life, and it has always been a really productive time. Not every song is a keeper, but just exercising that muscle, and I'm always trying to learn something new when I'm writing, and so it just, I know what you mean about that. I go through this thing every week where it's like inevitably Wednesday, because I send my song to my friend on Friday. Inevitably on Wednesday, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a great song. I love it. I have it. And then on Thursday night, I come into the house like super morose and just like, I cannot write any songs. I don't know how do you do this? Can't figure it out. And then by the end of Friday, like, 7 p.m., I'm like, I gotta do a quick thing for my friend and send it to her just to prove to her that I have been doing it. And then I'm like, this is probably terrible. And then on Saturday, I play it again. I'm like, this is my new favorite thing ever.
That's quite a roller coaster.
It's like, I am in the worst mood on like Wednesday, Thursday about this song. And then Saturday, Sunday, I'm flying high and I'm like, yes. And then Monday, I'm like, I can do it. I can do it. And then Tuesday, I'm like, okay, this is the idea. And then Wednesday hits again. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
That is so funny. It's funny that it's the same way every single time for you. Like,
That's really funny.
I'm just going to keep doing it until I can jump the groove and get out of this like cycle. I just want it to be like, but.
Well, I don't love everything. I put a lot of, because, my supporters on Patreon know, like, they're not all going to be winners, okay? They're a song a week. Like, sometimes I put them out there and I'm like, I hate this, but I didn't have anything else this week, so I have to give it to you guys. So sorry.
Well, those are going to wind up being your fans' favorite songs.
That
you realize that.
Already has happened a couple of times. And then the ones where I'm like, I love it. They're like, I don't really like this. I'm like, really?
Yeah, totally.
Does that happen often to you, Arielle, that you have lots of songs you're like, I really can't get into this song, and then it's everybody's favorite?
Yeah, that happens. I think it happens both ways. Like, I might be so emotionally caught up with a song, just completely smitten with it. When you write a song and you just feel such relief that you're able to express that thing that you didn't even realize the week before that you ever needed to say, but then you do in just the right way. And then you play it and I don't know. Then people are like, well, okay, so it kind of happens both ways.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like it's so funny. I've been, my first album came out in 1999, so I've been writing songs for a while, and I feel like I'm still getting to know the process of it. I feel like I'm still, even though I can say all of these things and say, yes, this is my roller coaster over the week, or this is my experience with the audience, I still feel like, I don't know, like we're still getting to know each other, me and songwriting.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, over time, lots of things around us as songwriters change. A lot of the tools are different than they were even 10 years ago now. for recording and even for songwriting. There's lots more stuff you can do now with having like notes apps on your phone so you don't forget an idea, or voice recording so you don't forget an idea. That wasn't really as proliferant as it was 10 or 15 years ago. And
What did you
so
use back then to remember your ideas?
I wrote them down I just wrote them down at my computer on a or I would try to record the idea into an whatever, like Cubase or GarageBand or whatever I had back then. That's what I would do. But of course, that meant a lot got left on the cutting room floor. But other than that, that's mainly what I did. What about you, Ash?
Pen and paper. I had, I still have them. And I still go
Yeah.
back to them sometimes because there's stuff in there that, is incomplete. So I'll pick it up and kind of go through for fun sometimes, be like, I need to finish this. But yeah, I've got like stacks and stacks of notebooks. But I was really, really late to the game of recording my ideas. So, and I was back then more than now, I was very much, I would almost always write the lyrics and then work on the melody later anyhow. So, and now I kind of do both at the same time more so. But yeah, so often, but then when I think it changed when I figured out I could record my ideas. And then I was like, oh, okay. So now that's when I kind of write both at the same time. So what about you, Arielle?
Well, back, I don't remember what year this is, but do you guys remember mini disc players? Did you ever encounter those?
Yeah, I remember mini disc players.
That sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
Yeah, mini disc player was like a little, it was a little square. I mean, mini disc, probably 2 inches, 3 inches by 3, something like that. It could fit in your pocket, and it had these little discs. And I would walk around Boston, like singing into my mini disc player when I had a melody idea, or if I was, back at home, I'd play it on my guitar. And the mini disc player was like always there with me, and you could skip from track to track, kind of like a CD. I guess it was.
Yeah, they were tiny CDs basically in a little
Yeah,
case.
sort of, but they were like, yeah, they were square though.
And
Yeah.
you could rewrite onto them. Like that was a little different from just you could rewrite normal CDs too. You had to get a special type, but this was easy because you just plugged it into the mini disc player and you could record and re-record over them.
Exactly. Yeah. And I had a little microphone, and I just kept that with me. And I still have my mini disc player and all my little discs in the garage, along with CDs, my CD rack. Yeah. So now I use my phone notes for words and the recorder for, it's essential. It's essential for me. I cannot write a song without having a recording device next to me, to just, because I have a really bad memory. So it's like I'll sing the melody, and if I don't record it, the next time I'll sing the melody, it'll be different. I'm like, wait, what was it before? Which do I like better? So
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because I had a friend in Nashville that had this hypothesis that if he didn't remember the song, he stopped recording and writing anything down when he'd write a song, because his theory was that if he didn't remember it, then it wasn't good enough. And I was like, oh my God, that could not be farther from the truth for me, because I just have such a terrible memory. I could be like, have written the best thing ever, and then I'll still forget it. So,
yeah, totally heard that before. Yeah, if you forget it, then it wasn't that memorable anyway. But I'm like exactly the same with you, especially. There's a lot going on when you're writing a song. You're thinking about melody, you're thinking about words, you're thinking about the rhyme scheme, you're thinking about where is the melody set in the measure? Does it come on the one beat, or is it on the and of 3? Or how does the verse relate to the chorus? Maybe the chorus is coming in on the 1, but the verse is coming in on the and of 3. And your melody's going up here and going down there, and now you've got the lyrics, and then also the changes underneath. And it's like, you got to remember all that the first time you did it, or it's no good.
Yeah, I know. I was really shocked when he said that, and I was also very impressed with his memory skills, because
yeah, wow,
I do not have
awesome.
that.
I kind of subscribe to that same school of thought, but Um, I think mainly because uh, sometimes I'm just too lazy to go record anything. so I so I just if I'll either kind of beat it into my memory or sometimes it just sticks and then I'll eventually get around to recording it
But
and
Yeah.
you have
fixing
a
it.
great knack for remembering like the music, like not as much lyrics, but I swear
Yeah.
you could walk away from a guitar piece for a few years and then just pick it up, like, and then you can also hear a song and then play exactly what you just heard for the most part by just, so you
The
have that
form I
music
can
ear. I do not have that.
I mean, the form I can easily remember, form, chords, that kind of stuff. Melodies a little trickier and lyrics trickier still, but I think, yeah, that does help. Like that way I can, and in that way too, like if even if I come up with a weird melody that I don't remember, I still have the skeleton of the song that I
Right.
can when I sit down to actually record it as an idea. I usually come up with a better melody anyway. So
There you go.
Yeah.
the mind kind of self filters a little bit.
Yeah, well, there's that saying, writing is rewriting.
Yeah.
And
Oh
I
yeah.
do feel like that's true. And that's kind of what you're doing when you're, sitting at, you know, Logic or whatever it is that you use. And, it's
hmm
like, oh yeah, that was the melody. But now that I'm sitting here actually getting it down, is that the best one I can come up with, or can I make this better?
Yeah. And, sometimes in the interim, you've heard something or had a cool idea or thought of something that will influence the melody to be even better. I mean, that's happened a
Totally.
lot of times for songs that I've written. Sometimes years will elapse, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and then I'll finally figure it out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say that for me, the one place that I can't grab my recorder, my phone, write it down, but this place is where I think about a lot of melodies is when I'm in the shower, because of
Oh,
course
right.
I'm like, and so when I am like in the shower, can't write it down, can't record, and wanting to remember something, um, I try to like take it apart. I do have it's like I want to like pay, like each stitch. It's like, okay, what was that note? What is that note? What is that note? Where's it going? Like I try to get really conscious of, oh, what did I just do? Because maybe I can reconstruct it, even if, my musical memory won't capture it. At least maybe um, this stitch by stitch, I can kind of put it back together.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Where you kind of leave a breadcrumb.
Yeah, like like I'll do solfege, like my do re mi's, and
Yeah.
like think to myself, okay, are these eighth notes? Is this triplet? Like I try to like go back to those sort of building blocks, and just it's kind of like instead of reading a sentence, like really looking at each word. The cat sat on the hat.
Yeah.
Okay, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a really technical way of looking at it. I've never that actually inspires me a lot to think about what I'm, because to me it just like I song vomit.
Yeah.
Like blah, there it is. I don't know. I have no rhyme or reason for anything I do. It just happens. So but I feel like that's actually a really beneficial tip for me to like break it down and really look at like why and what I've just written, and
Yeah,
that might force me to kind of tweak things a little bit more, and also a great memory tool. So, when you're in
yeah.
a place you can't write it down. For me, it's often when I'm driving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I was in orchestra and symphonic bands. I was a classically trained woodwind player.
hmm
So it's like
Oh,
if I try in my mind to sort of like, okay, if this were written on paper, like, if someone's conducting and there I'll be in the shower, like, like conducting, like, and then thinking,
yourself.
okay, where's the tonic? Like, where is do? And then, okay, what am I? Okay, yes, I'm ascending this scale or whatever it is. So it's like I think go back to that kind of musical training, which
Yeah.
is not the way that normally I I mean, that's not the impulse. That's not the way I start writing a song. But if I'm trying to remember, capture that idea and paste it down until I can get to, my tools, then that's sort of the way that I go back to it.
That's really cool.
Do you do melody first or lyrics or kind of both at the same time or all three?
Yeah, that's so interesting that you asked that, because I feel like that is like the question
Yeah.
that gets asked a lot by, like, songwriters ask songwriters that question, non-songwriters ask songwriters that
Yeah.
question, like,
This might be the
and
first time we've asked anybody that on this show too, funny
Probably, yeah.
enough. But also I think this is the first time we've gone this deep into songwriting. So I'm very curious about what you have to say about it.
I think this is the part that I meant when I said before that I'm still getting to know my songwriting process, because that question, I've encountered that question many times. I've asked myself that question many times, and I'm not sure how to answer it, which is bizarre because I'm writing a song a week. So it's like, how have I not figured that one out yet is beyond me. But I'm trying to pay, especially this time of, this iteration of the song a week practice, I'm trying to pay a little more attention to the creative process as a whole. Like, my friend sends me the prompt. Meanwhile, I'm working on another song because she usually sends it to me a week or two early, and I'm working on, the song for that week. So I'm like, okay, file that in the back of my head. I'm not going to pay attention to that prompt too much, but I kind of have my eyes open and I'm looking around my world for ideas around that prompt. Like, what does that prompt make me think about? And then when it comes around to the week to write that song for that particular prompt, this is what I have been doing the last couple of weeks. I've actually started to map it out because I'm really curious about, like, how can I make this more of a conscious process rather than stumbling around in the dark every time, So I write the prompt down, and then just immediately before I even start, I'm like, okay, over the course of the week or 2 weeks that I've been thinking about this prompt, I've gathered some ideas that where it might point. So let me just write down the 5 ideas that seem potentially most interesting. And then I look at those 5 ideas, and one of them inevitably feels different. Like, it's just like, I'm kind of curious about exploring this. And then, so I have in this way started to, I guess, work idea or prompt into idea. And then I free write about that idea with, like, scene, like trying to get into, okay, if this was an experience I had actually, let me get into it. Like, what was my sensory experience in that moment? And I'll just free write for 10 minutes or something on it and collect imagery and ideas and words, and through that start to see some connection. And so that's that part. and then there's the music. So those are just ideas. And then I have to, it feels abrupt. It's always this, like, shift, and I have to consciously say, okay, pick up your guitar, because even if you have a great idea for a song right now, if your guitar is not in your hand, there's something about that that's not going to work. You have to start noodling around and figure out, like, some kind of finger picking pattern or progression, or are you in 6/8 or 4/4? Like, I start to bring in that musical feeling a little bit. And then also inevitably there's some, I mean, it's like, I don't know, I start scanning my mind, like, songs that I love that have the feel that I might be going for this. And then I think about that song, like, oh yeah, that's kind of a nice ballad, or, oh, this is a total pop song, and I start thinking in those terms, and then I have the guitar, and then things start to, actually, I think there's one more step for the lyric part. So that's like the music, the ideas. And then when I was doing that free write, inevitably, because I was playing with words and language, some of those words felt interesting to me. Like, oh, that would be a nice word in a song. It doesn't always work. This last song that I wrote, that I just finished, Friday, and then played with the band yesterday for the first time. That song originally, I really loved the word video cassette.
Nice.
I had stumbled onto this idea and I was like, I'm going to have video. I was like, I am brilliant. This was on Wednesday. I was like, I am brilliant. Video cassette is going to be in this song. I know exactly where it's going to be. And Thursday, half of the day, I'm like, video cassette, video cassette. And then the end of Thursday, I came into the house morose because I could not make the song work with video cassette.
That is a really cool piece of like furniture to put in your song, though.
Yes. The problem is that it's so specific to a time. I was like, then that means that this song has to specifically be in the 80s or 90s, early 90s. Like it has no place elsewhere. And I just eventually that word, that single word that I was so in love with that was the cutting room floor. That went out.
Did you use video or cassette?
I didn't, but I did use camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we want to hear the song.
Come to my lawn on Friday. I mean, on Saturday next week. We will be on the front yard playing.
All right. Sounds like fun.
Anyway, I think that's like, at that point, when I have a couple of those juicy words, I start to think about, I'll open up my rhyming dictionary. I start to think about like, okay, what are sounds, like not just direct rhymes, but what are rhymes or words that have the same feel?
What can you get away with?
Or and
like a near rhyme. I've done that a lot. Like a near rhyme is fantastic.
I love them.
Sometimes they're great. I mean, even in this song that doesn't have video cassette in it now, I used lingering and worrying as a rhyme, and it didn't have to be in that place. It did to me, to my ear, have to sound similar, but it did not have to be an exact rhyme in that particular place. So I like write down some of those words, and I'm like think I've got like words rolling around in my head, and maybe it's sort of, I don't play Scrabble, but maybe it's a little bit like Scrabble. It's like you've got those letters in front of you, and then you're seeing what's on the board, and it makes no sense, and you don't exactly know, but then suddenly you see something that will work.
I've always thought of songwriting as a puzzle. Like to me, and when you get something good and you get excited because you're like, that fits. It's like a really good feeling, like you just won the puzzle. Or Scrabble is another good way of looking at it too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that got into way too many nuts and bolts, but that's what I'm mapping out about my process lately.
I like it. I also can't stop thinking about rhymes for a video cassette. I'm just constantly going through my head. Like, I haven't yet.
Well, so the name of the song is The River Dock at Sunset.
Oh, Sunset.
There you go.
Yes, I love
That's
it.
the name of the song, The River Dock at Sunset. And I was thinking, so the chorus of the song is, if I can remember it right now, something like constellations turn above the river as it's flowing by. The time on earth keeps slipping by. What's the next line? A couple more lines, and I was trying to say like the things that we're trying to nail down that can't be nailed down. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that could be something that I use, like, so we capture it on the video cassette, or that wasn't the line, but it was like, we try to capture it on this thing that we can't capture, it's just going to keep going by. In the end, I had to discard it and for better or worse.
Well, we talked about when I was on your show, Toms and Tunes. And Tomes and Tunes. I said that wrong.
For the first 3 weeks, I said tombs.
Why is it so hard?
It was like dead people in songs, basically. I was like, that's not what
Tubes. Oh, that's funny. Well, I remember asking you if you co-write, and I think you mentioned you had it, and I think we talked about setting something up together.
Yes,
and I'm just remembering it now, and I'm saying it out loud so we can maybe possibly remember to set something up this time.
Oh, that would be so fun. Now that I actually have been thinking about this process of songwriting that I just described, and thinking a lot about how this might actually be it might help me. It might be a really great way to do a co-write with someone. So,
you know, that's something that's helped me a lot in my journey, my week journey, because yeah, when there's weeks where you're just not feeling that creative, I'll because Ed and I spent years in Nashville, so we're very accustomed to co-writing. So if I didn't have something, I would just call up a friend of mine in Nashville and be like, hey, you want to write this week? And we'll just pop something out. And I'm like, thank you. I actually, that just happened last week. I had I'm working on a song, and I had written the entire song, like and this has only happened a few times, and Ed's helped me finish like 2 of those 3, and this was like the 3rd, where I'll write the entire song, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus out, and I have 0 melody in mind, like nothing. Like usually I'll have like an idea or something. So I called my friend Johnny Garcia, messaged me. He's like, hey, you want to write over Zoom? I was like, actually, yeah, because I have no idea what to do with the song. And I think we finished it in like 20 minutes. He was like, I sent it to him. He's like, this is awesome. This is what we're doing. Gives me the guitar. And I was like, yes, thank you. And then it was done. So it was like, nice. I mean, typically I think co-writes involve more going back and forth with the lyrics, but it was just an interesting exercise because I really wanted to write that song and I just couldn't get it out. And so pulling somebody else in sometimes just really helps you get to that point.
I actually have a song that is in the opposite situation right now. I think it might have been around the time that Ash, you were on my show. It is a song where I have the title, I have possibly some lyrical ideas. This rarely happens with me. I have the whole, like all the changes, I have melody, I could play the whole song for you. Except I don't have lyrics and I'm not sure what the song is about, but I have the music.
Well, maybe that's one we can work on together.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to chat about, because I saw that you have kind of an online sort of yoga practice, I guess. I don't know what you call it. Yoga practice. Yeah. And what was your journey kind of moving all of that online during the pandemic? Like what was that? What kind of things did you run into where you're like, oh, I don't know if that really worked or that worked out better than it would have live,
Well, I think that when you have no choice or you have only one choice, that can help a lot. It's not like we had the option to not. It's not like there was the option to teach in person, right? Mm-hmm. So, my husband and I are both yoga teachers. He's also a composer and a songwriter. I mean, he's also a writer. So we met.
Wow.
The day that we met, it was like, oh, you're a yoga teacher too. Oh, you're a musician. Oh, you're a writer. Like, can I marry you?
Nice. All done.
Yeah, all done. And so, also, oh, are you devastatingly handsome? Perfect. So we were both teaching at the same yoga studio, and March 13th, Friday the 13th last year was the day that I think everything in Los Angeles shut down. I think the night before or the day before, on Thursday the 12th, he always taught the morning class at the studio, and I always taught an evening class at the studio. And he went to the studio and he taught that morning class as always. And over the hours between his class and my class, we had a lot of conversations with the studio owner. And in that time, the doors to the studio shuttered, and I taught the first online class. Wow. And it was like, ooh, like I have taught creative writing online. I have never taught yoga online.
Yeah.
What is this going to be like? And that, that was before we weren't even on Zoom. It was just like, okay, our community is, you know, like every other community on that particular day, that particular week, that time, was feeling a lot, feeling a lot of devastation and sadness and grief. So let's just do the easy thing and go on Facebook and just teach a class and invite them. And then eventually over the next couple of weeks, it moved to Zoom, and then it wasn't, the studio then decided to permanently shutter their doors. The business model had not been created for teaching online. It was created for to support a brick and mortar store with rent and all of the considerations that go with having a physical space. And over the few months, we were sort of wondering, what will happen with the studio? What will the owner choose to do? What is our part here? Some students were absolutely on the mat every day with us, and a lot of students weren't. I think a lot of people were like, how do we live? Like, how do we do the things that we did before on the other side of, or during this great disruption? Like, how do we, a lot of what you want when you go to a yoga studio is just the community of being around people, right? So, so a lot of students wouldn't come, and then other students were like, yes, I need this, I need this, I need this. And for me, just as full of grief as everybody else, I was like, yeah, I need to show up on my mat and teach as much as possible, because this is what is keeping my spirits up. If I can be of service to other people and like stop wallowing in my own sadness, and just like hold the space. And if I'm telling them to do a sun salute, then I'm going to be doing a sun salute with them on the mat, which is not the way that I ever taught before. Like in a studio, I was not practicing with the students. I was walking around the room, but I've practiced with my students in every class now for a year. And eventually in September, we opened up our own, my husband and I opened our own Bhavana Flow Yoga studio, and totally online. And it was inspired in large part, I think, by being indie musicians and like, how do you build a music website? And what do you need? Oh, you need a merch store. People want to buy your CD. Oh, well, maybe they also want to, buy your Bhavana Flow Yoga hoodie, or, if you, it's like, how does this translate? And then, oh, okay, we're booking classes. So, how does the website get set up? It was really informed, I think, in large part by being an independent musician and just looking at websites, what works, what doesn't, and, how to build that.
That's really smart. And how's that been going? How are you enjoying the online process? And do you think you'll ever open up a physical, or is this kind of here to stay?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I loved about the online yoga studio is that when I start touring as a musician, if I, am out in your Central Coast area or down in Arizona visiting you, Ed, like, I can be out there for a festival and still log on and teach my yoga class online.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that idea. He and I have also led yoga retreats since 2016, and we're really looking forward. We did an online retreat this year. It was surprisingly awesome. It was really powerful, but there's nothing like going to some beautiful place in Ojai, like in the wine region of California, and having a beautiful yoga studio and breaking bread for meals and pouring wine at dinner, and going for hikes in between classes and stuff like that. So, definitely looking forward to that. But I don't think we'll do a brick and mortar yoga studio. I think we would just want to do more retreats, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds really nice. I think I would love to join your yoga retreat.
Oh, yes. Come on. Come to class.
Oh my God. I miss you know what? I wish I had known about this. I'm totally going to join your online community classes, because that is the thing that I miss. I'm a big yogi. I'm not an instructor, but I love the yoga community so much, and it really lifts me up. And I feel like, when I lived in Nashville for 5 years, and I really jumped into my yoga studio there. And it was like you said, it was a community. We would get together and we could rely on each other. And when, I was breaking up with my boyfriend, I showed up for class and the teacher's like, "Why is your practice so terrible today?" And I told her, and she was like, "You're here. That's what matters." Just like all this stuff. And the certain classes, some classes are just magical and you don't know why, but they just are. And then sometimes you show up and they're, I don't know. I miss that so much. And even in the 5 years that Ed and I were on tour, I was able to find yoga studios along the way on our routes, like all the time. I would seek them out because that was also really interesting for me to be able to experience other studios while we're on the road. And they were usually very, very welcoming. And some of those classes really stick out in my mind forever. And you learn different things and I could take all these different experiences and pieces. And I felt like that was a really big part of my touring experience. And now in the last year of the pandemic, it's been a very different experience. I got engaged. I got to move to California, and I recently got a dog. All these wonderful life things are happening, but I just feel the gaping hole of not being able to perform with Witherword, and also the gaping hole of not having a yoga community, even the ever-changing one, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that was the thing about Bhavana Flow Yoga is that, for both of us, the thing that we love about the yoga practice is very rooted in the philosophy of yoga, and the physical part of it makes us feel great. And it's like, okay, that's great for our physical health and our mental health. But, we knew that part of the big why yoga practice is community and just the discipline, the ability to show up, to have a place to show up, to be supported, to support others, to be of service, and all of that. And so, just this morning I was teaching, and after class, four of us, three of the students and me, after class, we just stayed on Zoom for another 45 minutes or so. And Darby came into the shed with a cup of coffee for me, and he said hi because he knows them and they've all been on our retreats. And, and I thought, these three people who are here right now, they have been with us from the very beginning of Bhavana Flow Yoga, and they've also been practicing with us for years and years. And then at the same time, we now have people from our East Coast families, and my husband's from Texas, and some of his Texas folk. And one of my best friends lives in Europe, and she comes to class. And it's like, I love that it's not geographically rooted now. Like, wherever people are, if they can, take that class at 6 p.m. Pacific or 9 a.m. Pacific, it's like they're now seeing the familiar faces. And afterwards, sometimes we hang out on Zoom and chit chat, and other times it's like, okay, peace out, see you next time.
Yeah.
And, that community has been, the pandemic has been hard for everybody for different reasons, but I think that for us, it has not been isolating, despite the fact that we've been in our homes the whole year. And that is because of our daily yoga classes and the community that we've had, in addition to, my tomes and tunes every week and talking to songwriters, so.
Yeah. Well, which is a great transition because I feel like we haven't really talked about tomes and tunes that much, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that to our audience and talk about your show.
Well, the first 6 episodes were on Instagram, and for Instagram, the connectivity, you have to sit right next to the router or as close as you can to it. You can't, use an Ethernet cable. And so I couldn't be in the shed. I had to be in the house. And so I would sit right here on this couch because today my Ethernet cable was not working. So I'm back on, it's kind of funny. It's like a year later, here I am again. But the very, very first episode of Tomes and Tunes, before it had a name, it was just Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific. And my friend, singer-songwriter Ann Stott from Massachusetts, she and I got onto Instagram Live. and I was sitting right here, and she was sitting in Cape Cod in her home with a bookcase behind her. And we talked and we played some songs and we started talking about books. It just happened really naturally. And someone who was watching on IG chimed into the chat, "Oh, tomes and tunes." And I was like, perfect. And so
wow.
after that, it's been like, okay, this is the theme of the show. We're going to talk about books. We're going to swap songs.
And they gave you the name just right there. That's pretty incredible.
That was from my friend Harriet Reynolds, who's a songwriter in Austin, Texas. She is a wonderful songwriter, and she's just got that knack for like coming up with names. I've seen her do it in other cases as well. I think we have a friend here.
Aww. I've had my dog on my lap this entire time. He's just asleep. So it's cool.
Well, she's about to be
animal friendly. So
nice.
It's Garfunkel.
Hey, is that a wrap skirt? That's pretty.
It's not. I thought it was when I ordered it on Amazon, but it's just a regular skirt. But I'm starting to really get into, so I'm performing live more now that I'm vaccinated, and in their outdoor shows that have opened up, like specifically the wineries. And so I'm doing a lot of them. So I did 2 yesterday and I have 1 today, and I noticed on solo shows there's a lot more bending over you have to do. So I'm like on this wave of wearing more pants and long skirts to my gigs, long story short. So I bought this on Amazon. I'm like, I need another long skirt.
Yeah, because you have to be your own roadie. You've got to set up, you've got to plug into the DI, you've got to do all that stuff on the ground.
That was Ed's job. Now it's all, you're carrying, and then like, oh, it's crazy. So.
You know what? So I first encountered you guys at the Folk Alliance Far West Regional conference in fall of 2019. And you guys I was a stagehand. I was setting up the stage. I don't remember if I did it for your set or not, but I remember exactly where I was sitting, and I saw you guys play, and you were fabulous. And Ashley, I remember you kept playing with a bracelet that had a pick in it. It was like your pick holder, but it was around your wrist.
Oh, I remember that.
Yep. And there's funny story about that is we were playing a show in Wisconsin, this awesome show. Do you remember the name of that barn place, Ed? It was...
no, I don't, but I know what you're talking about.
We'll think of it. But we were setting up, and this guy goes, "Hey, does anyone have any children that are learning guitar that wants this child size guitar pick holder bracelet?" And I was like, "Oh, me with my child size wrists? Yes, this child would love that."
That's right.
It seriously has been so amazing. So that's funny that you remember that.
I remember it because it's a thing. I actually, of course, my guild is in the shed, but I actually put a piece of tape on the top of the guitar. Actually, my casino back there also has a piece of tape at the top, that like 2 pieces of tape that I put together so I could slide my pick between the guitar and the tape, and I can take it out and put it back and take it out throughout the show. As you know, I alternate between finger picking and flat picking, and like I don't know what most after all these years, I still don't know what guitar players generally do. That thing on the mic stand with, the pick holder, that works if you've got a mic stand, but if you're just sitting in your shed playing guitar, your picks could end up wherever.
Well, and I always lose those dang things too, because I'll like put them on another mic stand at another show, and then I walk away and I'm like, yep, left it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the wrist thing's good because it's just right there.
Yeah.
I lost my pick holder, but not because I left it on someone else's mic stand, but because I left my mic stand. So I lost my mic stand that time too.
I've done that.
Yep, that's happened as well.
Been there.
So you lose everything attached to the mic stand as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Leo and Leona's was the place, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
In Bangor, Wisconsin.
That's right.
Yep.
That was a really cool place.
Yeah, just a big kind of converted dance hall.
Yeah.
And beautiful room.
Yeah.
And But I also wanted to mention that you are a poet and an author as well. Are you, have you been published? Where can we find that kind of stuff?
So if you go to ariellesilver.com, that's my main website, and there's a music, yoga, and writing, and there's a writing page which links to some of my writing.
Hmm.
I um, I got my MFA in creative writing, and it was my application for that program was actually stories about when I was on the road touring.
Nice.
So, but I thought at that time that I thought it was going to be a permanent shift. I was pretty much done with music, with performing, with songwriting. I thought I very likely recorded my last album. And I was looking for a new passion, and I found that I really loved literary writing. I liked just writing prose, and
Hmm.
I think just naturally, this is probably my tendency as a songwriter too, is just more of a I think I've come to realize that the word literary, when it's in front of writing, literary writing, I think it just has to do with what grade level you are writing for. And if you're writing for fifth grade level, it's not literary. And if you're writing for like college level writing, it's literary. So,
Huh.
I just have this like, tendency, I guess. And I got my MFA in creative writing, and in that time, really loved. I wrote a little bit of fiction. Mostly nonfiction, some of it more lyrical and poetic. And one of my pieces, I consider them all essays. Everything I write, I consider an essay pretty much.
Hmm.
But some of those essays, other people consider to be poetry. And so sometimes it's published, in a poetry journal, and sometimes it's published as, in a like personal essay style. Um, and yeah, and so I've done that, and then for my master's thesis, I was very interested. I'm a stepmother, and so for my master's thesis, I was very interested in the wicked stepmother narrative.
Yeah. That's
And so afterwards, I've also written a little bit, not so literary, but more like research based pieces that have to do with that world of the history of stepmothers, and
Yeah,
Oh, that's very
that's
interesting.
neat.
That's
yeah.
what I love my stepmom, and I call her my wicked stepmom just as a joke.
As long as it's a term of affection.
Yeah, she loves it. She's like, Ashley calls me the wicked stepmother.
Oh,
That's funny.
I love that you guys have a good relationship though. That's awesome. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
we do. I
You got
really,
pretty lucky with your step parents, I would say.
yeah, my stepdad and my stepmom are, they're family and they're wonderful humans. I got really lucky. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Do you have a good relationship with your stepchild or
I
children?
have two stepkids, and they're right now 20 and about to be 17. And I've known them since they were 5 and 8.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, so it's an interesting age. I mean, when I first met them, in the first 2 years, the older one loved me. Her hands were always in my hair, and she was just like starry eyes. She put up one of my music posters in her bedroom at her mom's house, which I probably didn't
Oh.
go well. I'm not
Nice.
sure, but that was that was that. And then the younger one at that same time would like wedge herself between me and her dad, like tear our hands
Oh.
apart. Like she it was
Oh.
like, just definitely expressing something.
Yeah.
And then of course, time goes by, and teenage girls, they flip, and you know, who knows how it will all come out. But
Yeah.
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 stepmomming is, I don't think I've ever said that
It
before.
works.
It's complicated, and it's interesting, and stepfathers have a different role in a family than stepmothers, and
Hmm.
stepmothers, the role is very different from if the biological mother is still in the picture. The stepmother role is very different from that biological mother. And I would say that the stepmother is usually the secondary parent to the father. Where the father is often, if the family is the original family of origin, the father is frequently kind of second to the mother, to the biological mother. But then when there are two households, then the father becomes the primary parent of his household, often, not always, and then the stepmother is secondary to him. And that is not the way that girls are raised to expect their role in the family.
True.
So there's a lot of, there are so many different, gosh, we could talk about this topic forever, but I don't know if this one's so interesting to your music lovers, but
I think it's interesting.
It's a whole other thing,
Yeah, that's
Very
an interesting
complicated.
dynamic that you don't think about, because I think there is a lot of you do see a lot of what happens with stepfathers. I feel like people have a pretty good handle on how that works out, but with stepmothers, it's not quite so clear cut. In kind of the general like zeitgeist of step parents, it's not
Yeah.
quite so clear.
Well, I'll say
Yeah.
this, that generally speaking, the biological mother and the stepmother can't, I mean, in terms of pop culture, they can't coexist.
Right.
That's the way that it's depicted for us. So, like, even that, people like to talk a lot about the movie Julia Roberts, and it might have been Susan Sarandon in the movie Stepmother.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the parents, the biological father, the biological mother, stepmother, I think there might be a stepfather. They're all nice people. But the kids go through loyalty conflict. And over the course of the movie, there's conflict between the biological mother and the stepmom. And eventually there's a huge rift, and then there's a reconciliation. But at the end of the movie, the biological mom dies.
Oh, that's convenient.
And it's convenient. And that's actually like convenient and cliche, because that is the way that,
right, because you had to
it's
get her out
always
of the
shown.
way for the
Yeah.
stepmom to be the sole female head.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know that. I don't feel so good about that.
No. But then the modern family is so interesting. And I met a woman who used to be a man this weekend, and she was working at the winery that I was performing at, and they were having a really big Easter celebration in the back of this winery. And she was telling me how she's like, oh yeah, no, I work at the winery a couple days a week, and they're my family, but I used to be married to the like woman who's now married to, I'm not entirely sure the connection, but she's like, what's amazing is the fact that like I never stopped being family, and I still very much feel family, and everyone was super supportive of my changes, and like we all love each other so much. Yeah. It's just, I just thought that was like, wow, I feel like you see that more and more. Like, I mean, even myself, like I'm going to be marrying, Brad's 19 years older than me, and he has kids that are closer to my age, and I'm about to be a grandma, which is weird because I am not old enough. But then his ex-wife and I are like really, really good friends. And like when she came up to the birthday party for Brad, and like it was just nobody's like weird about any of it. We're all just friends, and you love who you love. And I feel like modern families like ours, and this new friend of mine that I met, and whoever's, I feel like it's becoming more accepted and less like gawked at, like, oh okay, yeah, it's just a different scenario you're in, cool.
The nuclear family is changing. Like, I think that paradigm is not as strong as it was reinforced, at least, it
Yeah.
wasn't being reinforced as much as it was, say, 40 years ago or 30 years ago.
Yeah, and even this idea that like exes can't get along, like that my
Right.
my step parents, I mean, it took a lot of years and whole life for that to happen, but we all can be at family functions together and everybody loves each other and calls each other, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ed, you just used the word, or I can't remember if you said central or decentralized, but I was thinking that when you said it, how the nuclear family or the family itself has become decentralized,
Yeah.
and it no longer necessarily orbits around a single home. Frequently it orbits around, our kids are, they have a bisolar system going around, they're orbiting around two different households. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of like, um, I mean, it's really beautiful how things are, it's very simple to think of a nuclear family. Oh, you got the mom, the dad, the brother and the sister. I don't
Right.
know who's like the
Mom,
point
dad,
0.5 kid,
and
but
2.5 kids. Yeah.
yeah, but then, when families kind of fracture and remarry, and then people bring in their past loves and the broken the evidence of previous relationships that have ended for one reason or another, and all of this stuff, things start to get, more complicated, but not less beautiful.
Right.
Um, just more complicated and
Hmm.
harder to hold perhaps in our heads at one time, all of the pieces, like, oh, that's my ex's brothers, sisters, whatever, blah blah blah. And it's like, and I love them, they were super close, and your friend is like, who are they again? It's harder to
Yeah.
figure out that family tree shape. Maybe we're more like banyan trees, where we drop roots like off of our branches, and our trunk just keeps getting bigger as it includes and accommodates, all this stuff. But
Yeah.
I think that idea of the decentralization of it, and the becoming more, the complexity of it, is reflected in nearly every element of modern day living.
Hmm.
Everything is like, in this world, you know, you know, you could have a yoga class in the morning that is, the origin in India, and you could eat Italian food for lunch, and then you pick up your guitar and you're like doing a Elizabeth Cotton style picking. I'm
Yeah.
referencing your episode from before,
Nice.
you know, which I love that episode. But like, now we're like pulling in like Italy and India, and the South, and American South, and like we're like pulling in all these different things, and we don't ever say, oh, that's too complicated. You're pulling on, and where was your shirt made, and
Hmm.
who was the jeweler who made your ring, and where is that person from? And it's like all these different things, and we never say, oh, that's too complicated, I'm going to shun I'm going to shun that part, but yet we say it sometimes with family members, like, oh, that was not that person's not biologically related to me, so I'm going to shun them. Or that relation, that just, I don't know, it's like, families like yours, Ash, that are just like loving each other, and you're friends with your partner's ex, and you're too young to be a grandmother, but then you've got your coming stepkids and their kids and all the stuff, and it's just a question of like, do you, like, the heart can expand, why not do that then? Like,
Yeah.
why not just choose that? Like,
Absolutely.
choose that.
Absolutely. There's one of my very good friends says this all the time, and I absolutely love it. I don't think he made it up, but it was the first time I'd heard it when he said it. It's only weird if you make it weird.
Right.
That constantly runs through my head with everything in life. Like, yeah, it doesn't have to be weird unless you want to make it so.
Yeah.
Then it's just
I like that.
life.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. I gotta hold that in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good thing to remember. It's because, a lot of this stuff, especially with families changing, it challenges something that, not even just that, but the culture knows. Like, it's not even just that. Like, you're going up against what the culture has traditionally seen.
Yeah.
And I think that that is starting to change, but that's why you have that kind of phrase, is because they're the ones making it weird. It's your normal now. It's weird to them because it's not what they see on television or in the movies.
Yeah,
But it's your normal now.
Or grew up being told that's what you do, you know?
Yes.
And, yeah.
Exactly. So I think that is starting to change.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I like it a lot.
Well, we really appreciate you spending your Sunday with us, Arielle. It's been fantastic. Just this has been such a crazy, like, long, winding conversation, and that's exactly what we look for.
I loved this conversation. I love how we talked about like three very important issues and got really deep in all of them.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that we were able to do that within an hour. So good job, everybody.
Well, I just so enjoyed when I had each of you on my show. I was like, man, that was a really great conversation. And then it's like the show ends and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, and that happened with both of you. And I was like, oh, I just want to hang out with you both.
Yeah,
I know.
This
Well,
is how we hang out with people now.
yeah, for now, but we're, you guys got one more vaccine to go, and then we'll see what happens, right? Maybe we can join you on a porch show, Arielle.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with Witherward? Are you guys going to get back to the same state or meet each other in Utah or something like that, or Colorado? Or what?
We will tour, we will perform. We are not gonna do it like we did.
No.
It's no more. We'll tour like normal musicians, a couple weeks out here and maybe tops a month out there,
Yeah.
especially if we go to Europe, or a weekend here, a long weekend there, stuff like that. But yeah, I think we enjoy having home bases and lives that aren't just like all encompassed with the band. It's like it was wonderful for 5 years. I couldn't, what an experience. But yeah, moving forward, I think having a personal life is just as important.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, what about you? Will you be touring again, or what's the future plan, depending on how things go, I guess, with the world?
Yeah, I do also want to go to Europe. I want to do a yoga retreat there and connect it with a couple of weeks of shows. So that's something that's on my mind. I want to play festivals. I want to play shows, but at the same time, I don't want to be on the road, like you said, like I don't want to be on the road for 6 months at a time. So I think it will be more targeted, specifically, going there, play in that area, coming back home.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. Well, but Ashley, I will be up in your neck of the woods, and I'm sure you're going to be down here in LA because we're not that far apart. So,
well, I'm actually in San Diego. It feels like I'm in the Central Coast because I wish I were.
I really thought you were up in the Central Coast.
Yeah.
She's up there a lot.
Because I post
I was picturing you like in Morro Bay.
I'm literally going there next weekend. Like I'm there. That is my dream place to live in anywhere in the world. I just want to be in the Central Coast of California, specifically Morro Bay, so badly that I'm like always playing there. I've got a great group of friends up there, and family, and multiple places to stay. And Brad, my fiance Brad, is the same way. And I think Ed is even too. Like we just love it. So no, I'm
so funny
south.
because I literally thought you were, this whole time we were talking, I was like, oh yeah, that's where she is.
Yeah. That's great because, manifest, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's where I want to be. So we'll just keep projecting that.
Yeah.
People have no idea where I live. They think so. Seriously, people will be like, oh, yeah, because you live in Arizona. I'm like, nope, still wrong.
Yeah. Well, and you say San Diego, but that county is so gigantic; it could be anywhere.
That's
It may
true.
as well be the moon.
I'm in a small, very, very small rural town called Ramona, which is about 45 minutes inland from San Diego. So I'm actually even closer to you than you thought. And there's a lot of wineries around here, so you can come do a yoga
Oh,
retreat.
oh yes.
Yeah.
And also, gosh, I want to start playing those wineries. So maybe I'll see you either down there or we'll meet in the Central Coast.
Yeah, let's talk. I'm all about sharing show information, like swapping show information with people. So we got a lot to talk about, Ariel.
Sure do. Yeah, we definitely do.
We thank you once again. We really appreciate having you on the show, and do come back anytime you like,
Yeah.
and we can definitely make that happen.
Yeah, I was really excited to have you on today, especially after watching Ed's show with you and then being on your show. Is like she's just has really profound things to say,
Yes.
and you're an incredible artist. We don't typically have people perform on our show because it's a talking show, but we would like to encourage everyone, go to ariellesilver.com, look up her music, her yoga, her writing, everything. Just incredibly talented, unique individual in the best of ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it was our pleasure. You take care. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you again really soon. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. What a cool lady.
I knew she was going to be such an awesome guest. I was like, this is going to be such a fun episode.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah, I could seriously talk to Ariel for like hours.
Yeah, I know, right? Because it's just there's, she has such a great history of performing and writing, and just very insightful about a lot of different things. So
Yeah.
it's really great to get that kind of perspective on a lot of, especially in songwriting. Because you're right, I don't think we hadn't really gotten that kind of detail on anybody's process before.
Yeah, I feel like
which was kind of nice.
We did a little bit with like Ben Grace, I think, was talking about his songwriting process a little bit, but that was more like emotional. This I felt more technical, which I think was really interesting because there is a lot of that goes into songwriting that you don't really hear people talk about. So I was really glad she could we're all about unveiling the curtain in this show, so it's kind of nice that you could pull that back and check that out a little bit. Yeah.
I'll do my show and tell here real quick. This is an older photo. This was 6 years ago, I believe. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. And so this photo is in San Francisco. As you can see, there's a sign for the wharf in San Francisco, and there's Ashley, her mom Jill, and her aunt Millie, all pointing to this sign. And this was a message sent to me to tell me where to go, because I was like riding along. I was trying to meet you guys, and I'm pretty sure I just didn't understand where exactly you were. So you
we're
sent
like,
this
"Here."
photo pointing to the Fisherman's Wharf thing, and so I was able to find the trolleys and get there.
That's hilarious. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Now I believe was this our first trip to San Francisco?
Yeah, and
It's like everybody was in town for this show.
yeah, that was like that show was like one of the most magical shows.
Yeah.
Because everyone, so my cousin Ike was living there.
Yep.
So he was able to
He
come.
was playing for the A's at the time.
Yep, which is funny because my cousin Seth was also living there working for the A's.
Oh, that's right.
Behind the scenes as an intern, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, my aunt Millie, who's in the back there, she was in town. So was my sister Tara was in town from Paris.
Yeah, Tara was in town.
Like everybody was there. My mom and Jim were there. I don't remember why mom and Jim were there, but I think we were all there kind of at random. I don't think it like, or maybe my mom and Jim came because Tara was going to be there. I don't know.
That might have been it. It might have been because Tara was, because I'm sure she was there for a conference or something, right?
Yeah. And she, flew, she lives in Paris. So when, she's as close to she maybe, whether she made it to Arizona or not, I think my mom and Jim saw it as an opportunity to go. And, we have cousins there too. So,
Right.
Carol and Art. So they came to the show. And then Tara, because she was there for a conference, she brought out like all these people that she works with to the show.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
My friend Lindsay, who was my roommate in Australia, came out.
Yep, because she was there. She was living in the San Francisco.
Yeah. Who else? Our friend Cody was there too. And then
Yep.
I feel like we're missing. There's a group shot
boy.
we'll have to find. But it was just we played this tiny little room called the Revolution.
Yeah, Revolution Cafe, I think it was called.
Okay, yeah, in right in downtown San Francisco, and we just packed the place with our family, friends, and friends of family and friends, and it was a really, really, really fun time. So, and then we got to run around San Francisco a little bit with my Aunt Millie and my mom, and Ed met up with us.
I might be misremembering something, but was it Seth's birthday?
I don't remember. I'll have to ask him.
I thought maybe it was somebody's birthday.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong about that.
Well, what's funny though, just quick side stories. I love this story because Ike.
Oh yeah.
Ike Davis is his name. Is my first cousin. So Aunt Millie, who's in the photo, with the big hair. She's her son is Ike, and so Ike was playing for the A's. And when Ike got signed to the A's, or he got first signed to the Mets, and then he went to the A's, and it was a lot of articles written about him because he's Jewish, and we are Jewish, and so it was a really, really big deal, and they love Jewish people, and the baseball, especially.
There aren't that many in the player side.
Yeah, and especially, New York Mets. I was like, there's a Jew on the New York Mets. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And so a lot of stuff written about that. So when Ike got called up to the majors, he had a lot of people coming up to him and going, "You're my cousin," meaning I'm also Jewish.
Right.
And Ike didn't love this. He's like, "No, you're not my cousin."
He took the term very literally.
Yeah. So, but what's funny about that is we have, so my cousin is, I don't know how you do this. It's like once removed kind of a thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but
Carol would know.
Yeah.
She knows exactly how to say it, but I've forgotten.
Right. So Ike and Seth had actually never met before. So it was a really crazy coincidence that Seth was interning for the A's and Ike was playing for the A's. So when Seth walked up to him on the field and said, "Hey, I'm your cousin," Ike was like, "Whatever, buddy." Like walked on, and then they both showed up to the show, and I guess Ike didn't remember him because it was like just a lot of commotion, and Seth's like, "Yeah, I'm your cousin. We've met before," and Ike was like, "Oh, you're actually my cousin." He's like, "I'm so sorry. You have no idea how many people have been telling me that." So I just assumed anyway.
The rare chance that he actually runs into one of his actual cousins.
Yeah, and like the fact that he was working for the A, what are the odds of that? So we just didn't put it together. But yep, there you go.
I remember that story. I remember that. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yep.
Because that's I wasn't aware of that kind of thing. But it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think people, I think it happens with a lot of different people. I mean, whenever you get, especially if you get, kind of famous or, because Ike was pretty famous when he got, like, he was this high, he was a first rounder, I think. So.
What the hell? Wait, hang on 1 second.
Oh, you okay?
Hello? Hello?
I wonder if Garfunkel warned her about something.
Nothing like your door slamming because of the wind.
Oh, is it because of the,
sorry.
is it
That
because
just shot.
of the wind?
Yeah, the wind just picked up all of a sudden, and I guess Brad left had locked the screen door, but left the regular door open.
Yeah.
So the door just like slammed, and it just that just sent my heart into my chest. Anyway, I'm awake. Woo.
You're awake now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a first rounder. I think
Yeah.
you're gonna get people coming up to you saying all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So I didn't think he was kind of just over it at that point.
Yeah.
He was like,
So poor Seth.
yeah, I know. It's funny.
But yeah, that's my show and tell. I thought that was I just like that photo a lot because I think it's a pretty funny photo.
Well, and that's a funny story behind it too, that I forgot that we had taken that to show you where we were.
Yeah.
How clever.
Yeah, that was a direction for me.
Yeah.
So
We'll have to find the group shot at the venue for another.
yeah,
Maybe
we
yeah.
did get a big shot. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that'll do it for the show today. Many extra special thanks to our wonderful guest Arielle Silver. You can find all of her info at ariellesilver.com. We'll put all of the information in the show notes, so you can find her on her socials, find her yoga practice. So maybe you can take some yoga classes as well.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
For sure.
Ash is absolutely gonna do it.
Oh yeah, they looked up. They're only charging $10 for a class, for an online class.
Jeez, really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you can't get a class that cheap in person. So
No. So definitely check out her music. It's really cool, very cool, kind of alt folk stuff. Really great stuff. Thanks again to our sponsor, EV. For more about EV, go to electrovoice.com. And many thanks to our lovely, lovely patrons who directly support this show and make it go. So if you would like to become one of those people who supports this show and makes it go, head to patreon.com/crimesagainstfolk.
Thank you guys. Garfunkel says thank you. Hi, I'm Garfunkel.
Oh, Garfunkel. What are you thinking there?
I don't know. I got as far as picking up my guitar. Let's see. How about let's do an original. I feel like we haven't done an original in a while. And yeah, it's hard. It's so funny how hard it is when we're not like directly looking at our master song list.
Yeah, right.
Why is that so hard? We could, we haven't done the Sanctuary in a while. I'm not even sure if I remember how to play it, but it could be a fun exercise to try.
Yeah, we can do Sanctuary.
Nope.
So we'll leave you with this original. And this is the Sanctuary. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
One, two, three, four. We had a choice to make. We had a world to save. A sacrifice was all that it would take. Without a pause for thought, a soul-bound weapon sought to vanquish evil from the sacred place. Her life was given up so that we would endure. The world we had was base and impure. Anew, we made with love, we plant the seeds and tend. the sanctuary would grow again. Sun shall start through the trees and dance among the breeze. They strike my face with a familiar ease. This forest gave me life and opened up my eyes. Here I was born and here I hope to die. The sun, to catch the sun, I climbed the redwood arms to guard the canopy from our foes. It's true, I knew that I had been immortal once, but this was not the fate that I chose. Stoic resplendency enshrined among the leaves, their veins connected to the history. 1,000 years, embracing nature's tears to give their shelter to the creatures here. This light I give to you, they gave to me before, to ward the forces that can restore. My son, my only son, today becomes the day. The sanctuary calls you a man. Nice.
Woohoo!
Awesome. Thanks once again, everybody, for hanging out with us today. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Garfunkel.
Bye. Love you guys.